Hello, welcome back to Romance Book Monsters. I'm Kitty Boom, and this is my co-host Lollipop. How are you today?
I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing good. Today we are coming to you with The Favor by Suzanne Wright. I love Suzanne Wright. She is an amazing author, especially her Shifter series. I'm a very big fan. This one is more of a contemporary book. What did you think of it?
I really liked it. Just a little bit about the book. It's based in a really tired genre, right? So we have contract marriage with secretary versus boss, and like so many, so many books with this particular premise. But I do feel that Suzanne freshened it up. I think that, based on the backstories she gave the characters, based on the development of the characters as we went through the book, that she, you know, made me want to read more. Like, she made me want to read more about these characters, about this world that she built. It wasn't your tried and true secretary boss, contract marriage, fake marriage turned love. Um, how did you feel about that premise as well? Because it was the underlying premise of the book.
I thought it was done like really well. Like, sometimes they like, I don't know, like push it out like so long that they're pretending that they don't like each other or pretending that they don't know they want to be together, that
Mm-hmm.
it gets a little overbearing. But I think this is like the perfect timeline for this type of book that, you still get to enjoy a bit of the romance instead of like getting to the end and they're like magically, oh my gosh, you're the one for me.
Right. And I love her epilogue. I love when she does these long epilogues that time jump as well. So not only did you get a little bit of them together, but we got a little bit of them 8 years from now. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And you got to see, where her friends and family are. So I personally loved both leads. I felt the chemistry between them. I thought that they were a good fit for each other based on their personalities. Him being all stoic and silent, and her being straightforward, direct. She has no problems flipping him or anyone off, cussing them out, telling him about himself when he's
Yes.
wrong. He definitely could not have had a pushover in his life at all.
Yeah, and I like the fact that like we get like a very like good history and explanation of why he is the way he is. And once that is explained, like you can definitely like tell like why he's like so rigid to
Right.
begin with.
Right. I mean, definitely when we found out that he lost his twin brother, we found out,
That
they
he was
both,
abused by his father, him and
yeah,
his
physically
brothers.
and mentally for sure
Yeah.
abused.
And that went a long way to explaining like the relationship that he had with the brothers too.
Hmm.
Because at first you're like the younger, was it the younger brother? I don't know where they fell
The
like in
two
age.
brothers. Yeah.
But Travis, the brother, like you're like, oh my gosh, like he's such an idiot. He's so ridiculous. But then like once it's explained like their childhood, you kind of get it a little bit more.
Hmm. The
So that
father, oh, sorry, go ahead.
so that was good. His ridiculous wife, not so much.
Hmm.
But good. As I was reading it, that made me think of Suzanne Wright, like as an author. Like she's really good with like supporting characters in the role that they have and pushing the story along. And like she's found like a perfect balance that you don't see like with many authors. Like between her standalone books and her series books, and the standalone books supporting cast members for the books, but it's like just enough for you to be satisfied with them for that book. You're not really, they were good, but you're not really like lusting after like a second book about those characters. But in her series books, she gives you just enough of the supporting staff to actually make you want another book
Right.
for those, and then she'll give it to you. So
Right.
it's like it's a very interesting balance that she's found.
Well, I think part of it is with her three solo books that she's written, we got really good epilogues at the end.
Yeah.
So we knew what not only the supporting cast was doing, but also the main leads as well. So I felt that that satisfied us enough that we're like, I'm good. I know she
That
ends
is
up
true.
with somebody with kids. I'm good. Or they end up, having kids. Now, as I, mentioned in a previous conversation between you and I would be interested in a book between their middle child and the crazy friend and the husband who liked to her husband who liked to argue and their son, because the animosity there would be a spicy book. Like, how you have a 4-year-old ready to pull up? Like, what? Like, we gonna do this? Like, I'm just like, their 4-year-old daughter, like, she ready. She's about that life. I was like, how you about that life from 4?
Right early. But my favorite element in the book, because I was text messaging you as soon as I got a hint that it was there. The main character, the heroine in the book, her father, he has a multiple personality disorder, and I just love that all the characters came out, and it came out in a way that it wasn't like so deep that you're like bogged down in like psychology or whatnot. It was just like it's ridiculous to say, it was just like a fun addition to it.
Yeah.
And he had like these 4 personalities, and like they were so different.
Right.
Like he had the little 8-year-old boy, and then he had the motherly type in there, and then he had like Deacon, who was like the, charismatic, almost sociopath in there.
Yeah. Now he was ready to pull up. Because remember, he's the one that beat her mama down when the mama tried to sell her to her crack dealer, her drug dealer, or heroin dealer. Well, it doesn't matter. Her drug dealer liked little girls, and she was really about to sell her child for some drugs. And Deacon happened to show up when he did and knock her out, because otherwise, that's how they found out he had multiple personality disorder. And if I recall correctly in the book, he had 8 personalities at one time, but through therapy and being in prison, was able to, they collapsed into 4 distinct personalities.
Right. And that was one of my favorite scenes when the personality that was Maggie inside her dad called her because Deacon was coming out. She rushes over and the guy goes with her, and Deacon is like sitting at the table. It's like, Maggie called you?
Like it's a whole nother person. Like, I really enjoyed the fact that she was like, they are aware of each other and they communicate. Which is crazy to me. It's like Inside Out, where the different parts of the person's personality were communicating inside the head. If you ever saw Inside Out, the Disney movie,
or Herman's head.
Yeah. So it was like anger, happy, sad. That's like literally what was going on in her father's head, which is actually kind of cool. I think that could be an interesting movie avenue, because I believe the disorder is DID. I cannot remember the actual names, but I do remember the acronym, which was very interesting.
Like dissociative identity disorder or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. I really enjoyed that. So, as we already talked about a little bit about the emotional backgrounds of the male and female leads, which led them to be who the people that they were. As I mentioned, I love the dynamic between the 2 main characters. I liked their conversations. I liked their banter. I liked when she would tell him about himself. I also liked the fact that they worked together for 4 years. And before this situation happened, I liked that he was only able to ask her for this favor because he did her a solid. He, an ex, this was basically secretly recorded them having sex, and was about to ruin her life with it. He was trying to extort her, blackmail her for money. And Dane handled that business quick, fast, and in a hurry. So that with his fists, not with money, with fists, because he was like, nah, because you pay him once, you're gonna have to pay him forever.
I would have liked a cameo from that character though. That would have been interesting if he would have showed up.
I think he is afraid for his life, so I don't believe he would show up. Because you think this billionaire, you know what I'm saying, everything he deals with money, but this billionaire deals with his fists. He deal with money too, don't get me wrong, but he will knock a fool out quick, fast, and in a hurry. I loved her foster parents. I thought that they were great. Yes, they should have did more with their crazy daughter. But
Yes.
I thought for her, they were great foster parents, also in allowing her father to be in her life. I thought that um, I like the villains. I like them as I understood what they wanted. I understood Travis and his wife wanting money. I understood Jen just being crazy and
Him.
wanted to be married to her husband, but wanted Dean to be alone.
Yes.
Dane to be alone. I think that that's what it was. I don't think she wanted him per se. She just didn't want nobody else to have him because she couldn't have him. Because it wasn't like she was,
Yeah, because it was like it's easier to say, oh my gosh, he didn't love me, but he doesn't love anybody.
exactly.
So it's like now that you see, oh, he loves somebody, it's like, why didn't he love me?
Exactly. But and let's talk a little bit about more about the villains. So the stepsister, the foster sister, absolutely nuts. How you 8 years old and doing such evil, wicked shit? You was evil from jump. Like how such good people have, you know what? It happens all the time.
It does.
Good people have crazy children. Like she
And you
had
wonder, like, where did they come from?
mental disorder. Jen, another crazy one. We was just talking about her. And on top of that, how you gonna sterilize yourself? Even when dude was like, just because I don't want to have kids don't mean you should sterilize yourself. And he told her not to sterilize. He's like, don't do it. And then she turned around and did it. And then she couldn't get it reversed.
And I don't know what that was supposed to prove.
He didn't care. Because he told her. He was like, you did it? I told you not to do it. Why would you do it? And then had his brother, had Keith thinking that there was something wrong with him. When in this whole time, it was this heifer who got herself sterilized for a man who did not want her. Like, who does that? This heifer.
And I mean, that was so easily fixable. I mean, they had like a lot of money. Like she could have went and found, she could have gave some excuse for it, said that she couldn't have a baby. And I mean, they could have went and found a surrogate. They said sterilized. They didn't say like how she was sterilized. So I don't know if she went and got a hysterectomy or if she got her tubes tied or
whatever she did, it was not reversible.
yeah.
I feel like if she got a hysterectomy, her husband would know that she wasn't having a period.
Yeah.
So they probably tied and burned the ends, which
means she still had eggs.
yeah, she could have gotten a surrogate. And these are people who were decent in the money standpoint. And then Travis, trifling Travis. How you go? First of all, how you gonna try to barge into your brother's office to steal information to sell to his competitors because you want money when you should have money because you got your inheritance?
Although, Travis's logic, it made a little bit of sense that he expected to get the brother's inheritance. I mean, if they had to get married to get the inheritance, and the brother was already super rich and said he was never getting married, so he didn't need the money and he didn't want to get married. So, I mean, to always assume, oh, that's my savings. I guess it's not exactly really far-fetched. And it wasn't the money, like it was something else that he left them, like some type of like they didn't say, I assume it's some type of
personal
or something that he left that he wanted. It wasn't exactly the money that he wanted.
But it was also, you talking about somebody who was cutthroat in business. You really think they're gonna give away their money?
Yeah.
Even if
and it had to have been a significant amount of money that the brother had been living off of it for like all those years.
Because remember, he married young to get it. So he married at what, 18, 19 to get it? And he's got to be in his early 30s.
Yeah.
So he done been, and he gambled it away. So he still had plenty of money. You can't count. See, this is what happens when you count other people's coins.
Yes. You cannot count other people's resources as yours.
Look at that. Ended up broke. And his crazy wife. We ain't gonna spoil everything, but whoo child.
Oh, and don't forget her ex. Now, I can't like pick out one scene that was my favorite with the ex, but the element of her ex was one of my favorite parts in the books. I mean, here's this guy. he breaks up with her over the phone. They're engaged, and he tells her it's over the telephone with not a real legitimate reason to break up with her.
Mm-hmm.
Gets married like soon after. It's not even like he waited like a long time
I think he was cheating.
to marry like after he broken off with her. And now here he pops up. It's like, oh, I've always still loved you and I want you back, even though, you know, you can have your current romantic relationship. That doesn't matter because we were meant to be. How crazy is that?
I forgot about his craziness. Yeah.
And then to have a baby with the wife and name her after the ex fiance. Oh.
But the kicker is what? She's what, 24, 25?
Mm-hmm.
The kid is 5.
Yeah.
So, and were they the same age? No, he was a year older, right?
He was a year or two older than her because
so he's like 26, 27.
Yeah.
And he broke up with her when she was like, I guess he was
like 19.
Like 19. So he was 22. So that chick was already pregnant. Like, he had already cheated. That's why he broke off it. Because he had to go marry who he knocked up.
Maybe so.
Because if he was like 21, 22, and he's like 26, 27, and the kid is 5, that's why he broke up with her. Because he was sleeping around and got somebody pregnant. And he had to go ahead and go marry.
That makes more sense than the excuse that he gave.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is fiction in a book, so we have to go with the reason that the author gave. So it's not like real life where, you know, one reason was given, but that's not really the reason.
I'm sure it was multifaceted, but I think that's part of it. Yeah. Because either she was already pregnant or she got pregnant real shortly after. That same year. Because otherwise the ages don't match up. And that's one of my pet peeves of authors. If your ages don't match up, that means you didn't take the time to make sure your years lined up.
Right, and you're all confused.
Right, because you're like, how could she be 20, 27 with a 10-year-old, but she was pregnant at 19? Like, I'm real confused. Remember that one? We love the author, love the book, but how she was supposedly working there for like 8 years, but she was only 25. And she went to college, and you're like, how is she? This doesn't make. She didn't work there while she was in college because it was in a different city, and she didn't come home and work there like an intern. I was real confused.
Yes, that frustrated me so much. I went back through that book front to back trying to figure out the age of that person, and I just gave up in frustration.
The age, how long? Like, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense because you told us the age. You told us how long she'd been working there. You told us that she went to college in a different town. How did this go? Anyway, it's a different book. Let's not go down that bandwagon. So, I mean, I really enjoyed this book. The only two major, issues that I had with the book, which is not non-starters, like, it still flowed for me. One, it started a little bit slow. It took about 15 to 20% through the book for it to really start picking up and you to start, yeah. Because in the beginning, it was like, it just felt like another tired contract marriage between a boss and his secretary. But after about that 50, you're like, this is getting good.
Yeah.
My other thing was the coworker characters. I felt like it was unrealistic of how quickly they flipped the switch on her, with her now being in a relationship with the boss 4 years later after working for him. It just seemed real weird that they felt real comfortable talking to her in her face like she's a whore. Like, in her face. So this is the person dating your boss. This is the person married to your boss, the owner of the company, and you felt okay calling her a gold digger and a whore to her face? And you didn't think nothing was going to happen?
Well, I think that's kind of like the reverse of what was going on with Jen. The guy was the fact that, he had asked her out and tried to get with her, and she turned him down, but she turned everybody down. So it was like, You
mean Vienna. You said Jen, and I was like,
well, you know how we said Jen, she didn't really want him. but it was the fact that he had now found someone when before he didn't love anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
that was like a hit to the pride. So I think it was more of that, like a hit to their pride that, she didn't want anybody in the
mm-hmm.
company that was hitting on her. And now, like, she's with the boss. So in their head, they're like, oh, it's because of the money. It's not right,
No,
but
I get that piece.
yeah.
But do you really think you still gonna have a job calling your boss's wife a gold digger and a whore to her face?
Oh no, that was very, very retarded. Very, very silly.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, that character seemed very unrealistic. It's one thing to talk about behind the back, whispering, da 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 da, because she can ignore that. It doesn't matter. They didn't say anything to her. But to literally say, oh, and then to brag about how you're about to get a promotion in one breath and turn around and
Right.
call the boss's wife, the owner's wife, a whore and a gold digger. It just didn't make sense. Which I know she did it so that he would come and save her.
Right.
I just felt it was really unrealistic. Nobody in their right mind would have did that.
Well, I mean, somebody that does not have respect for women would do that.
Right. I
Somebody
could
that
see
has no
her.
respect and doesn't see any value in what a woman brings to the table would do that.
But it has nothing to do with her bringing anything. The thing is like, for me, it's like, it has nothing to do with her bringing anything to the table. That is his wife. If he
Yeah.
says, so-and-so, call me a gold digger and a whore, you don't think he gonna fire that person? Like, why would you think that he would keep you employed? And why would she keep that a secret? Because you ain't worth it.
Right.
And she definitely don't want to see you promoted, treating her like crap, and she still worked there. Because the minute it gets out that he was able to say that to her face and there was no consequences, what's going to stop everybody else from doing it?
Right.
So, irregardless of, she was not going to let that go. She is not that person.
I don't know. She might have because she had been letting like other stuff go, like the ladies like snubbing her and talking about her. She was like letting that go,
But they
but
didn't.
that was like seriously offensive what the guy did.
But they didn't do it to her face. Like she saw
Yeah.
them whispering, or she saw people not being as nice, like nice and open and friendly. But that's completely different than somebody coming to your face and be like, you a gold digger and a whore.
Oh yeah. And even his buddies, they tried to stop him, but he was like, "No, no, like I'm important to the company."
You know, everybody's replaceable.
He was ridiculous.
That's why he got the two piece special. Not only did he fire him, but he beat him down.
Yeah.
He laid him out unconscious. So those are kind of my two biggest gripes, but I still enjoyed the book. I still give it a 4 for sure. I like the book. I enjoyed it. I already said I love the epilogue afterward. Made me smile. Made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Yes, Suzanne Wright, like she's definitely, I really like this book, but Suzanne Wright is like one of the authors that's an automatic read for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know I'm going to enjoy it if she's like written it. At least that has been like that's been the thing so far with all of her other books. I've read everything she's written and it's all been good. Now, I must say that there is one more thing that I really liked in the book that I forgot to mention when they got married in Vegas and the Elvis creator who had the stomach problems and he had gas throughout the entire time he was doing the ceremony was hilarious.
Yes.
With the burping and the farts.
And I also did enjoy that we saw characters from her other two individual contemporary books that they came to the wedding event, because it wasn't a wedding, it was a wedding celebration basically.
Right.
Because it was after the fact.
The reception, yeah.
It was like a reception. And I love that she did a non-traditional wedding gown. So that was real cute. I was really feeling the knee-high lace boots. I was like, I want knee-high lace boots.
Right. Now, my one big pet peeve for the book is that it was wrapped up like very, very quickly. I feel like everything was resolved all at the end.
That is true. It was all
like figuring out like who was doing what.
Right. Outside of the stepsister. Outside of the stepsister, everything else was resolved at the end. At the reception.
Mm-hmm.
So Although they did already tie up with her ex, because he had already told him, "You gonna be nothing if you keep messing with us." So he had already given up. So that
Right.
kind of
They
got
tied
resolved.
up the ex, but I feel like the sister-in-laws, like they were doing like little stuff like all through the book. And like right at the end, it's like, oh, this person did that, this person did that, and this is why this was done.
Yeah, it did
Yeah,
wrap up a little
both
quickly there.
sides.
So
So
what's
I
your
would,
rating for the book?
yeah. So I would have liked if that was like drawn out a little bit, maybe like if we would have found out a little bit sooner, and just
Hmm.
had the great wedding reception at the end.
Right, that would have been a nice touch.
Instead, we're reading about, they're doing all the planning for this party, and they left the party early, like after the first dance, it felt like, to go and like find out all this horrible stuff that had happened.
Right? You right. Because they ate the cake with
Yeah.
the dance. She was leaving to go to the restroom and bumped into Jen. And
Hmm.
that's what set that off.
It was like in the party.
Hmm.
I was like, wait a minute, we've been planning this for a long time.
I know. Remember they tried to cancel the party too because they was being
Yeah,
trifling?
she was gonna reschedule it. But was
Right.
that the sister or the sister?
No, I think it was Hope. So it was the sister-in-law that tried to do that. Because she
Okay.
was the one sending the messages. She sent her the flash drive with the video. I think she was the main one behind all of that.
Right. Okay. So overall, like I give the book a 4.5.
Okay. All right. Well,
So that concludes our review of The Favor. Definitely go The Favor by Suzanne Wright. Definitely go out and read it, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell to be here with us with the next book we review. Talk to you later. Goodbye.